Yeah, I'm at 3100 Valerie Arms Drive in Dayton, Ohio. Doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of an apartment building here. It's like an 8-unit, I believe. And this has 2 separate laterals. They may be separate, they may actually connect together before they tie into the main, but there are 2 different clean outs. As you can see, there's the front of the building. The first one here is on the right side. And there, and the other one is mirrored on the other side. So first we're doing the one to the left, and this is cast iron. So the bad thing about this clean out is that it will only allow me to go towards the street. According to the owners, there are no other access points for the sewer line, and so this actually has a sweep on it, which is forcing me to only go downstream. So I can only do from the clean out to the main out in the street. The interior is like, obviously this is cast iron, and so the interior is all cast iron also. Cast iron is kind of hard to tell the age, just due to the fact that it does rust, meaning you don't have a life expectancy. Essentially, they say it's around 75 years from installation, but you know, it's kind of hard to tell because it does rust, and so you don't always get, you know, it's kind of hard to tell basically how much life you have left, because you can basically just look for functionality or obvious holes, stuff like that. Kind of give you an idea, but you don't really know how thin or thick the pipe walls are. And so we're just mainly looking for functionality. A lot of this stuff it is going to look ugly. It is rusty, but as long as it's functioning and we don't see any obvious, you know, breaks or holes. I know we missed a little bit of that on the way out, so a lot of times it's easier to see on the way back, due to the fact that as I'm pushing out, a lot of times you can have stuff kind of plow up in front of the lens, and so you may have to, just like that, you may have to push all the way out, and when you're pulling back you don't have that, so a lot of times you can see better when we pull back versus as we're pushing out. So far I don't see any structural issues. Of course, obviously we'll be able to see that. We'll make another pass here, but what I see is pretty much consistent with what I should see as far as cast iron lines. You have a little bit of a channel in the middle. The white stuff is grease or oils that congeal together, kind of leave a layer, because these obviously all share sink lines and stuff, and a lot of times without even, you know, knowing, you're putting grease and stuff down there just by washing washing dishes and running dishwashers, and even when you're using liquid fabric softener, a lot of times it'll do that. So keep making these turns, and hopefully we'll get all the way out to the main and be able to rinse off, and we'll be able to see on the way back. This may be from the other side, so I can't really tell on the way out whether this is a shared tap, and the way it turned immediately, I believe this goes over and ties in with the other line, and they go out together to the main, but I can't really tell right now, but we'll check that on the way back. Yeah, I don't know what. Another issue here is that camera lens is only about a ½ an inch off the bottom of the pipe. In a lot of these cases, if there's just a little bit of water, you can't really see much. And so you are getting some pretty big buildup here. as it switches over to clay. And so there's an awful long length of cast iron. A lot of times cast iron, once it gets out, it switches to clay, but in this case, there's quite a bit of cast iron before it switched over to clay. We were out what looked to be over 70 feet, at least when it switched over. So we're going to save some of the, what we'll do is we'll get out as far as we can, and then we'll hopefully be able to do a little bit better inspection on the way back. I'm hoping that I'm not in the main. The line doesn't look big enough to be a main, so but another big problem is that I don't have big enough clean out access to be able to get a good standoff on the camera that would hold the camera up high. And so I mentioned sometimes a minimal amount of water can, here we are at the main, a minimal amount of water can sometimes block the ability to see. And in this case, the opening is only a 3-inch, and so getting something in with the sweep, a larger standoff for the camera to hold it up is would not be able to fit through that opening. And the only other option we have is a small one, but we have trouble with it getting caught in cast iron sometimes when you're trying to pull out. But at any rate, we are out 106 feet. I'm going to pause the video, locate where it is, because I believe based off the footage that these would have had to have combined to go out into one tap, which would make sense, having one tap per address. So I am going to pause the video, locate this, find out where the tap is, and then we'll try to kind of follow it back as we go to see if we can find out where how this is configured. Okay, so based off of the placement, as we're looking at the building, we are in the clean out to the left, and it looks like this line comes over, goes, ties in with the line on the right, and then goes out from there. So I think it runs all the way over. The other one is more of a straight shot from the right side clean out straight out to the tap. So hopefully we'll be able to see well enough as I pull back that we can tell exactly where this is tied in. See, the lens is pretty clean right now, so hopefully we're lucky enough to keep the stuff off the camera here. Because we have a little bit, this is off the property right here, so this is good. Very minimal, you can see it's flashing, so it's not much of a belly. But this is off the property, and you can see it's because the line is being used at the moment, and so the water use is extra heavy. But the line, for what I could see on the way out, the line looked good structurally. We do have some, rust buildup and stuff going on from the cast iron, which is to be expected. And you have a little bit of grease buildup, which is pretty normal for an apartment building. It's nothing that's causing any obstruction or anything, just a layer from regular usage. Or normal usage, I should say. Looks like here we are switching back over from the cast iron. And you can see there's a little bit of buildup here, which we'll try to make sure we've kind of moved back and forth. It might help push some of this stuff out, because it looks like it's just stuff that normal buildup in the bottom of cast iron, but I may be able to push some of this stuff out of the way. Once the water builds up enough, it'll flush this stuff on down, but with my camera there, hopefully I can just kind of move it back and forth. And yeah, because this looks like wet wipes, which I did want to mention that also with cast iron, you have a lot more. It's a lot more likely to have soft clogs, which would be like excessive toilet paper and wet wipes and stuff can catch on cast iron pipe because of how rough it is. So it's a lot more common to have, you know, it's a lot more common to have a soft clog due to, you know, using normal products, or actually it's usually because you're using something or putting something down there that you shouldn't. One of the main things is those wet wipes. They do not break down like toilet paper, so they do have a tendency to cause a lot of clogs because if they get caught, they don't break down and things just build up behind them, whereas toilet paper will break down into, it'll disintegrate. And so we'll try to inch this thing back and we'll take a look. Like I said, on the way out, everything looked good. We're just mainly looking for functionality here. And making sure that we don't see any holes or anything in the line. A lot of times a good indication is a very, very deep channel on the bottom. And I didn't see a whole lot of that either on the way out. It usually gives you an idea that the line is thinning. So far, it's just showing normal signs of cast iron usage. You can see how it kind of buries a channel to the left. It's leaving some mineral buildup and rust buildup because of the way the path that the water takes. That is just debris buildup. It's nothing abnormal for cast iron. Like I mentioned earlier, it will eventually rust through, but we don't know. You know, you never can tell when. It could be half an inch thick, or well, quarter-inch thick, or it could be paper thin. You can't really tell from the inside. So, but the line looks very good up to this point. As I'm pulling back from the main. I'm going to pause the video here because this is where it Y's in. You can see the connection in front of me. You can see the water coming from the left, and that is the connection from the right side of the front door if you were facing the building. And so I'm going to mark that and then get a rough estimate of how far we'll be able to tell, but I will only have to inspect the short distance where these two tie together when I make a move and go from the clean out to the right of the front door. So I'm going to pause the video and get a locate. Okay, so the line actually ties in only about 10 feet beyond the other clean out. So this must come out towards the street a few feet and then turn and go right across the front lawn of the complex or building here, go underneath the front walk and tie in, like I said, only about 10 feet beyond, so just past the flower bed is where it ties in. So we'll only have to inspect about 10 to maybe 12 feet of pipe when we go from the other clean out. But looking at all this, you can see how the line has kept its shape really well. A lot of times you'll see a lot worse buildup and channeling. And what we're looking for is to make sure that the line is held shape. We just want to make sure that, you know, sometimes you'll have little black spots and stuff, and you want to make sure, because the oxidation does, it almost turns into like a liquid charcoal stuff, that the oxidation mixed with the water here, the rust and the buildup of materials. So it's not pretty, but it just looks normal for cast iron. And the fact that we are watching it function while we're doing this is a good thing too, because we can see the amount of flow coming through the pipe at the same time as we're pulling back, and see that there's no, you know, buildup, and there's no big chunks of solids or anything sitting in the line. Start to see the steam there from the hot water though, so I might be taking a shower. Now we're turning back up towards the clean out, it looks like. Again, a little obstruction there from the view of just from that steam building up. Right back at the clean out here. See, we're vertical. So the line looked great for cast iron. Like I said, it's always ugly because it rusts, but the line looked really good. It's held its shape nicely. The no big blockages or buildup of mineral deposits or rust in any way that's causing any obstruction. There is some evidence, obviously, with the transition between the clay and the cast iron that there's some wet wipe usage. You can tell people not to use them, doesn't mean they will, but just for future reference, they are kind of a nuisance, and they do make it a lot more likely that you could have a soft clog in the cast iron. And the fact that we can't inspect the interior cast iron, you know, most problems you find are outside, but it would always be nice to be able to inspect the interior, but obviously lack of access limits us to the clean outs here and out to the street. But everything has looked good, so now we're going to make a move. I'm going to pause the video, and then we're going to make a move to the clean out on the right side of the door, and we'll inspect that section of pipe. Like I said, we should only have to go about maybe 10 to 15 feet to be able to inspect that short distance pipe, but we'll just make sure that one looks as good as the rest. Okay, now we're on the right side of the front door. I have to keep the reel pretty far away, but you can see now there's the front door, and the clean out is right here. We're already out 9-10 feet because I can't get the reel very close to the clean out, and this goes off the rotation of the drum, not the actual footage. And this is the same way. This line only goes out towards the street. And so what we'll try to do is, just like the last time, we've got a bunch of stuff on the front of the camera immediately, and so we'll try to push out there to the about 20-25 feet where this comes together, and we'll rinse off, and we'll make sure that I'm well past it. We just hope that because there's a lot of flushing and water running right now, so we're just hoping that it's enough that we can see well enough. There's just a lot of water running right now. You can see us diving into the area. I think that's probably right where I know we're out 40 feet here, so we should be well beyond. There is the clay. So that's what we were looking for, is the transition into the clay. And so hopefully as we pull back, we can see a little bit better. Kind of make a few adjustments here on how I can see. There's a lot of ground cover right here. Some pretty heavy usage here. There we are back into the cast iron. This is where we were before with that low spot. And now we have extra water usage. See how it is diving. You can see the angle in the bottom left-hand corner. That shows you the angle that the camera is sitting at. This all looks really good. Should be seeing that Y in here in a second, probably right around in here. I think it's right there on the right. Yep, there it was right there. You can see, you can just barely see it. Sometimes it blends in pretty well, especially in cast iron, but there's the pipe wall right there to the right, and where it Y's in as it comes downstream, which is about 10 feet off the access point. Let's see, the only thing on this side is the same as the other. You have that white buildup, which is grease from regular usage from the kitchen sink. Maybe some liquid fabric softener can also contribute to that. But the line looked great. You can see we're all the way back out again. And the line looked great. So really don't have anything. All the cast iron looked normal for its age and material. It all looked, you know, it's rusted, but it's wide open. Didn't have a whole lot of channeling. The line didn't look. The interior diameter of the pipe was not decreased from the rust buildup or anything else. It looked like it was wide open and flowing, and you can see it had a lot of use while we were inspecting it. So that's a good indication that everything is flowing free and clear and working well. So that'll end the inspection at 3100 Valerie Arms Drive in Dayton, Ohio.